Hi, it's Shannon from Gigi's Fabric Shop, home of Janome and Junkies. And today's episode, we're gonna make this. So in today's episode, we're gonna learn how to make this adorable bloom pot holder. I think it's pretty perfect for spring, but I also think it's great for Mother's Day because it's just around the corner. So in today's class, we're going to talk about 4 main topics. First, it's where to get this design, kits, supplies, and then we're going to go through step by step on how to assemble this right in your embroidery machine. And if you're wondering what I'm sewing this today, might be the Janome 500 or maybe the 550E. We'll just have to see. But if you're interested in learning any more about the machines we sell here at Gigi's Fabric Shop, give us a call, and I'm your gal. All right, so this bloom pot holder is brought to you by Designs by Juju. We love her designs. Now, there's a couple ways that you can get this design. One, you want to head down in the description below, and there will be a link that will take you right to this file. Or you can hop on over to her website, designsbyjuju.com, and in the search queue, just search Bloom Pot Holder. You'll want to purchase this design and download it for our next step. I am using my favorite thread, the only thread, Glide 40. I have been embroidering for several years, and these are all the threads that I used on this pot holder, really bringing out the color cues of our main fabric. I love the sheen, I love the strength, the colors just pop off that yellow. It's like the most favorite thing I do is picking out the colors, the fabric and then the colors of the thread.
So she goes around, well, we both went around the store with the fabric in hand and then going through the shelves of the threads and literally matching it up perfectly. And then, are you going to show them the secret already? So she created not just one kit, but she created several kits, so that's going to come up in just a little bit.
So the favorite thing I'd say about doing these classes is when we put together amazing kits for you guys. So this is kit number 1, and all of these details will be in the descriptions below. So what do I mean by kits? We have fabric kits, so we'll have a ½ yard of the coordinating that you see fabric here. So a ½ yard of the yellow and ½ yard of the navy blue flowers. We also have thread bundles that coordinate right back to each of these pot holders. So if you're looking for thread bundles, you'll want to head on down to this description below and click on the thread bundle link. It'll take you right over to our website and you'll be able to look at all the amazing colors. Again, we are using Glide 40. Mwah! It's a beautiful, beautiful sheen and color and strength. So here's another kit we have, and I love what it illustrates is when you have the same design and you just bring in different color cues and it looks totally, totally different. So this one we're calling Garden. And then our next kit we have, which is called Daisy. And I'll show you the back. So we have coordinating glide thread bundles with each of these fabric kits. And our last one we call Rose. It's so cute. So I'll put there's 2 and then 2. So we have 4 kits.
What was the first one called?
Navy flowers. Yep, and that's the one that we'll be sewing with you guys today. Okay, so I briefly wanted to talk about all the supplies that I used for the pot holder. The first is a rotary cutter. You need that to cut your fabric. Our second one is you need a good quality embroidery scissors to trim away our fabric when we lay down our tack down stitches. So you want a good quality curved scissors so that we're not cutting anything below. You want a point turner. This is so cute with a little birdie on it. You want a point turner to make sure we get the corners out. A roller, you can finger press if you want. Sometimes I think using a roller will help lay the fabric down flatter. So we use that for the top and bottom piece. And lastly, we need some type of fabric tape. So at Junkies, we have the Kimberbell fabric tape along with the dispenser. And the fabric tape we'll use for the top and bottom, and also when we secure the batting and insole bright. So you will need fabric tape. And those are the supplies that I used for this project. All right, so let's chat about the fabric and stabilizer that you need for the Bloom Potholder Kit. Now, what I love about Designs by Juju is she will give you a supply list of all the things you need to make this potholder. So, you'll see here, I've actually pre-cut all of my fabrics that I need for this project, from batting to Insulbright to all the coordinating fabrics, whether that's top, center, or bottom. And I actually chose to use SFF 101 on the back of my center because of all the quilting and stitching that happens, because I want to prevent it from puckering. It's not required, but one of those tips that I like to add. Oh, I almost forgot. All these ingredients, get it? Ingredients, potholder, kitchen. That's my little funny for the day. But all of these are available right on Junkies.com. But of course, you can also pull them from your stash. You don't have to buy our fabric kits. Either way, we got you covered with our kits, or Designs by Juju offers all the sizes that you'll need for this project. All right, so now it's time to grab that instructional guide. I prefer color, and we're gonna walk through step by step how to make this Bloom potholder with you today. So the first step is we're gonna hoop the stabilizer right now. All right, so you probably already noticed that this potholder only comes in one size, and that size is an 8x8 frame. So make sure you have that handy. What we wanna do is loosen the screw here in the frame, and simply take the top and pull it aside, and we'll want to have our stabilizer slightly larger than our hoop itself. I usually say about an inch or so on either side, so it allows you some room to be able to pull it tight, and simply put the top of the frame inside, making sure you're doing this on a flat surface so we can make sure we're getting it as tight as possible. And then we want to tighten up that screw, which might just take a second to do. And look at that, we are ready to take her to the machine. All right, so before we start sewing, there's a couple things that we need to do first. The first thing is, if you're brand new, because a lot of you just purchased this lovely Janome 500 and 550E, make sure your USB has been formatted. Now, once it's formatted, you're gonna see an EBMF folder. That's the folder where all your designs are gonna go into. Now, you also want to make sure that those files are saved in the file format JEF, J-E-F. We're going to take our formatted USB and we're going to plug her right into our Janome 500E. And the next thing we're going to do is go to our file folder, and then we're going to come up and you'll see an image of a USB. We're going to click on that. There's our EMBF folder that I said we needed to have formatted on our USB, and there is our file. I'm going to hit it, and we're going to push OK, and the bar is going to move into position. One thing to note is that your machine can read the design that's on the USB, and it already knows that I need an SQ20B 7.9 by 7.9. And so that is the hoop that we're going to insert into our machine. So, who needs a cheat sheet? I always need a cheat sheet. Now, in our manual guide, when you purchase our Janome 500E or the 550E, this manual cheat sheet is available to you with all the icons and all the things they do. So, I'd say make this handy, put it in that top drawer, and become familiarized with your machine and all the capabilities it has. All right, I know you guys are really anxious to start sewing, but I wanted to just pause here just for a moment and show you on the screen all the fantastic information that you have available to you before, during, and after you sew. So here's our design, our Bloom design that's here. When you're up at the top, you'll see here our size hoop. Now, I already mentioned that we're going to be in a square 20B, which is our 7.9, 7.9. Below that, it's going to tell us our stitch area, which is 7.4 by 7.4. I'm actually going to be stitching today at 600 stitches per minute. I don't actually recommend going the fastest speed, but I feel that this is a good speed for me for this project. We'll have 23 color switch outs. Don't get intimidated by that. It'll go by pretty quick. And 27 minutes stitch out. Don't worry about it. When we go through the applique and satin stitches, we're gonna fast forward. All right, so the suspense is killing everybody. But before we hoop it, Gigi is joining us behind the scenes to help us walk through the steps. Gigi, you want to say hi?
Hi guys, I'm so happy to be here. I've been behind the scenes the whole time, and I told Shannon, let me just help you out so that you can move along a little bit faster. So I'm going to help you guys out.
Okay, beautiful. So Gigi, what's the next step?
Okay, so this is going to be step number 2. So this, on your manual, it's going to be page 3, and it says stitch the placement line for the batting. So Shannon is going to extend her foot, but really hyperextend it so it goes all the way up so that she could slide that hoop and match up that pin to the little opening. And you always want to make sure that's secure, and we are ready to go. And so what do we do now, Shannon?
All right, so I have blue selected for my thread for the placement stitch, and we're simply going to lower our presser foot and press start.
Boom. This is where the fun begins. All right, so we're gonna let this stitch out all the way. We're gonna go ahead and stop the video now, and then we'll see you on step number 3. All right, guys, now we're gonna start with step number 3. And you want me to tell them what it says?
Sure.
Or do you remember?
You know, I've made a few of these in my time. I've made a few of these.
So in step number 3, it says cover placement line with batting, making sure all sides are completely covered.
Yeah, you can do one of two things. You can take your frame out, so it's really easy for you to see that placement stitch. For me, I'm just gonna slide it underneath my presser foot, and I've got a dark enough thread color that I can really see that I am covering up the placement stitch. We're gonna lower our presser foot.
Yes.
And we're gonna stitch our
tack down line.
All right, there we go.
And then once this finishes and it goes all the way around, we're going to go ahead and trim the batting as it's shown on step number 3. So start grabbing your scissors while you're waiting.
These are my favorite scissors. I love them because they're curved, really helping trim as close to the tack down stitch as possible, which is really important.
And if you notice, Shannon did not use her extension table because you really don't need to. This is not a big hoop that's going to be sticking out of the machine, so that's why we chose.
That's right.
And also because we're little over here, very mighty, but our elastic arms, elastic girl arms, don't allow us to reach. It's much easier for us.
So you'll notice that this is going around twice, and you'll see that each tack down does do 2 pass-throughs, and that really, what that does is it helps secure any fabric that's being tacked down really well to each layer. Okay, so now we're gonna take the hoop out of the machine and we're going to trim our stabilizer.
Always make sure you hyperextend that foot so that it doesn't crash with your hoop.
So it's important when you use these curved scissors that you are using them flat down. You don't want to be turning them up. And this really allows you to get really close to the stitch line. And like I said before, and I always say this, don't do, what's the saying? Don't do as I always forget all my quotes. Anyway.
And you want me to remember?
Yeah, it's a famous quote. Anyway, what I was trying to say is make sure you take your time. This is not a race. You want to make sure that you're taking your time as you cut through because we don't want to cut through any stitches, right?
No, we don't.
All right, so Gigi, what is our next step?
So step number 4 is next stitch the placement line for the middle of the background fabric.
Okay, so I'm going to put her back in the hoop. I'm going to lower the presser foot. And we're going to go ahead and still stitch that in blue so it's really easy for you to see on the batting. And let's start her up.
And the magic is the start and stop button always knows with these program designs what to do. So all you have to keep doing is just stop and start, stop and start.
Okay, Gigi, I think we're ready for our next step, right?
That is step number 5. You're going to take that center background fabric and cover the placement stitch just like where you stitched right now. And you're going to make sure all sides are covered, and then we're going to stitch that tack down line.
Yeah, so this is the center that she's talking about. And just as a reminder, this is the fabric that I selected for the middle of our potholder. I did put a little SF101 on the back. There's a lot of quilting and satin stitching that's going to happen on this, so I just wanted to remind you guys that I did add that. So we're going to put that in the middle, making sure we're covering our stitches. We're going to hyperextend our foot and put her right back into the machine. Who's ready for the tack down?
All right, so now we're going to do step number 6, which is going to trim the fabric as shown on the page of your manual. But notice how we are trimming the top and the bottom. And it doesn't say it, but we're definitely going to be doing that as it's indicated on the arrows.
All right, so we're trimming this away because we're going to get ready to sew our top and bottom panel. So this alleviates any bulk on your pot holder.
So this is step number 6, and let's notice how Shannon trimmed it. Looks really good. The next step is we're going to stitch out the motif design on the main background fabric. So if you notice all the little squares that are so cute, pretty much it's the quilting of the pot holder.
That's right. It's step 7 if you're following along in the instructions. And let's talk about thread colors right now. I showed you all the thread colors that we were using at the beginning, really pulling out all the colors on my main fabric. And so for the center, I'm simply using bright yellow from our Glide thread bundle. All right, so the next step is you want to change out the color of your thread that you want to have this design motif for the center of your project. So I've already done that. So I'm going to lower my presser foot and get this step started and let the magic begin.
And one of the things that I wanted to say, Shannon, is if you are selecting your own colors, keep in mind that the stitching should probably be a lighter color so that your bloom, word, and your flowers will stand out. So go on the lighter choice of colors for this one. So notice how beautiful these stitches look. And I wish the color was just a little bit darker so it could be captured in the camera, but they are gorgeous. And now we're going to start step number 8. And what we love about Shannon, Miss Organized, is that she has labeled the top and the bottom fabric that is coming up, which is step number 8. On step number 8, we're going to grab that top and bottom borders and we're going to add them to our, what are we going to add it to our hoop, I guess?
We're going to add it to our hoop. So the first, we're going to lay our placement stitch. We're going to lay down our fabric, and then we'll do a top stitch. And so I've already changed my thread out from a yellow to the green. It's going to actually be our first color in our bloom design, but I also changed it so it would be a little bit easier for you to see that placement stitch. Otherwise, it would have been yellow, and it would have been a little hard to see.
Oh, and you're also already ready for the stitch out.
This is,
so we don't have to switch the
we
thread
are
again.
all about efficiency here.
All right, go.
Okay. Lower that foot and let her roll.
So step number 9 is going to be coming up. You have to remember on that one that you have to have your fabric right side facing down.
That's right.
And it's a little bit different on the instructions because it's that gingham fabric that you're like, well, is it right side up or not? So we just want to make sure we point that out before we start.
That's
step
right.
Number 9.
So I like to pull this out of the hoop so you guys can see. This green, this lime green, is our placement stitch. And so take your fabric that you've selected for the top and the bottom, so top and bottom, and you'll want to face down about I bet it says what, 1/8 of an inch, maybe 1/4 of an inch over that placement line. So there's that placement line. We're just going to make sure we're covering that about 1/8 to 1/4 inch.
Memory, Shannon.
Yes, thank you. I made a few of these. And we're going to slide the hoop back into the machine. And we can add a little bit of tape here. So at Junkies and Janome Junkies, we have fabric tape from Kimber Bell. What I love about this is it helps secure so nothing will move. All right, so we're going to put our presser foot down and we're going to do our top stitch. And that step
is step number 9.
Good
Shannon.
job. Good job.
This is turning out to be a little bit of fun.
All right, so remember I told you the top stitch will, or the tack down rather, will go down 2 passes to really secure that fabric. So,
all right, so step number 10 is coming up, and what do you think it's going to be, guys? We have to remove that hoop from the machine and fold over the fabric and pressing the seam really good with your fingers.
That's right.
So watch how she does this.
You want to grab my roller for me?
Yes.
My roller that coincidentally matches everything.
I think she did that on purpose.
All right, so you can use your fingers. But what I love about the roller press is it really gets that seam down. And sometimes we use an iron, but for today, I'm just gonna see how nice it gets the seam down.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that so
That
great?
is nice.
All right, so we're ready for that to go down. I'm just gonna put a little bit of tape, just like right here, just to make sure nothing gets caught with the needle.
Yeah, and one of the recommendations that I have is when you first start doing some embroidery projects, don't walk away while your machine is embroidering. That's a no-no.
All right, so I bet we're gonna do our tack down stitch. Is that next?
Yes, you're gonna run tack down stitches
All right.
to secure that border with the right side facing up.
Perfect. Okay.
On your mark, get set, press start.
So you'll see here that we're still sewing, and I think the color that we're using is kiwi. And it's okay. You're probably wondering why I'm not doing it in blue. By the time we assemble all these layers, you will not see any of these colors. So we're just being efficient with our colors, keeping in mind our next steps. So Gigi, I think I'm gonna do the bottom piece, right?
Yep, step number 11, guys, repeat the process with the bottom border. So we're gonna definitely stitch that placement line. I just
see
love your
how-
fabric.
I know, it's so
pretty.
fun. It's so fun. Oh, you know, I took it out of the hoop. We haven't even done our placement stitch. I'm so excited to get this laid down and start with the satin stitches. I gotta lay down that placement stitch first.
Now we have to add the bottom part, right, Shannon?
That's right. So we have our placement stitch, and again, we're gonna take our bottom piece rather, and we're gonna lay right side down about 1/4 of an inch, 1/8 of an inch to 1/4 of an inch. We're gonna cover up that placement stitch. We're gonna put her back in the machine, and we're gonna lay down our tack down stitch.
You know, come to think about it, this is actually a continuation to the next step, which is step number 12. So
That's
we
right.
actually just did step number 12. So
That's
we're
right.
there.
We just laid down our tack down stitch, and now we're gonna take her out of the hoop. We're gonna fold that piece of fabric down. You can finger press it, or you can use the roller, and you wanna make sure you get that crease nice and flat so we don't have any puckering when we do our top stitch around. And I'm gonna put her back in the machine, and see that green stitch? We're gonna do the same thing at the bottom.
All right, so this is also jumping into step number 3, where we remove the hoop from the machine and fold over that fabric and press the seam well with your fingers. I just want you guys to make sure that you know you're on step number 3. And now we're gonna run tack down those stitches to secure the border with the right side facing up.
And just like you've seen before, it does do 2 passes again so that our fabric is really, really secured. Now, the next several steps that we're gonna be doing on our bloom pot holder is all of our beautiful satin stitch. And so what we're gonna start with, if you're following with the directions, is in the color chart, it will show you that the first stitch that we're gonna do is this green swirl. I'll just walk you through so you guys have a sense of what we're doing next. So we'll start at the green swirl. Then the next stitch is we're gonna wanna change out our thread, and it's going to stitch out bloom. So if you're following us, that's gonna be in our navy blue.
And that's step number 14, by the way.
Okay, perfect. And then the next step is gonna be our flowers that we did in our red sultry. And then the center, which we did in tango. Tango, tango.
Tango.
All right, so then once that's completed, the next step will be these, our green leaves done in kiwi. So that we'll do it here, and then they'll come down and finish it here. And then we'll do the gray swirl for the butterfly. Then we'll do the butterfly wings, and we'll end with the middle of the butterfly. So if you're working on our Janome 500E, I just wanted to give you a heads up that we will be changing out our color of threads quite often due to the amount of detailed stitch on the center of our bloom pot holder.
Well, and also the reason for that too is contrast. You are
That's right.
playing a lot here with contrast. I love how we chose that blue for bloom so it pops right up, but it's also not taking away from all the detailing in the background, and then green just contrasted. So you and I had fun in the store, didn't we?
We did. We did. Really the fun part about embroidery projects such as this is that you're able to play with the colors of thread and really pull out the color cues and the fabric that you're using. And you can see we definitely did that. I think, Gigi, you'll agree. We pulled out all of our color cues from our main fabric.
I think so, absolutely. We went around holding that main fabric and started pulling out those colors. And you know, if you're doing this on your own and you're creating your own little kit, this is when you start realizing, oh my goodness, I never have enough threads. I never have enough corals, enough oranges. It's like, no, I need it a little lighter, I need it a little darker. So that's when it's fun to think, okay, I think I need to shop for more threads.
All right, so if you remember, I'd actually already changed my thread to the kiwi color back when I was doing all my placement and tack down stitches. So now I'm actually ready to do the swirl. So we're just gonna go ahead and put our presser foot down, and we're gonna let her run out this design of this green swirl.
Yeah, and also I wanted to mention, because it takes so long to do, we'll start it and show you guys how to do it, but we're also gonna fast forward once that design gets going so we can get to the next one. So you'll definitely want to pause the video if you're doing it with us so that you get to finish yours as well. We would love to hang out longer, but I think it'll be too long.
Yeah, definitely drop questions down below if you have any. We'll respond to those.
All right, here we go. And the cool thing about this machine is that we actually recorded this part of this video yesterday, and now we're finishing up today. And we were able to turn on the machine and start right back up where we left. And we're going to be doing some short videos on how to navigate the machine and do different things in other segments. So stay tuned for those. I have switched out the thread color because now we're going to do bloom. So make sure that for this next step, you change out your thread, and this is where that beautiful blue is going to come in. What was the name of that blue?
Rock Navy.
Rock Navy.
Yep. Really, it's a perfect match to the navy flowers.
And I'm going to zoom in so you guys can see how pretty these stitches are.
So one thing to note when you're using your embroidery machine and you're doing a satin stitch like this, make sure you're watching the speed of your embroidery machine. This is a very dense stitch, and you want to make sure you're not running your machine at full speed. I'm at 600, and I feel for me on this type of project, that's sort of the sweet spot that I want to be at. You'd rather have your machine sort of take its time stitching through something so dense than stitching maybe not at the best quality, but as fast as possible.
Is this the one where you added the SF101 on your own?
I did on the yellow, on the center, that's right.
Yeah, and see, I think that's great even for more stabilizer because of the density in this pattern. I think that was a great idea because that is just a little bit on your main stabilizer. It's not super thick, but you don't want that super thick stabilizer. So it's a good balance between two light ones for you to be able to do this satin stitch and still look great and maintain the quality of that dense stitch.
Yeah, and it's cutaway, which means it will stay with the fabric. We're not actually tearing this out. It's actually staying with the whole piece. And so if you do wash this, the design here isn't gonna fault at all.
So I know Boki did a stabilizer class a while back, but we're definitely gonna have to have our own Janome Junkies. And speaking of Janome Junkies, for a little while, guys, you're going to see us kind of going back and forth with links with JanomeJunkies.com and JukiJunkies.com. We're trying to get all that together in one happy place. But as we're kind of, all those growing pains are happening, you're going to be purchasing a lot of these things temporarily through JukiJunkies.com. Our other sister company, but you're definitely, eventually, we will have them all together in one place.
We will.
Gorgeous. Oh, look at that. I didn't even have to move the camera. It's doing a great job. So she's going to stitch out the L, and we'll leave it there just through the L just to give you guys the ability to see the stitch quality and how good it looks, but we definitely don't want to go all the way through that O-O-M because it's going to take too long. And I think we need to go drink a cup of tea. What do you think? By the way, guys, if you haven't figured out, I'm very jealous of Shannon's job. I hired her to do this job, but, you know, I'm really jelly because my love is embroidery and free motion quilting. So this is kind of like the both of them together in one project. So I'm just sitting here, you know, pretending to be Shannon too.
All right, we just completed our bloom, and so the next step is our red flower. So I've changed my thread out, and we're gonna get started. Okay, so we just finished up our flowers, and you're following us on our thread color guide. We are starting on step 15, and it's gonna be the center of our flower, and I've already changed my thread out, and we're gonna get her started. So we just finished our beautiful flowers, and if you're following us in the color chart for the thread, we're moving on to step 16, and those are the leaves. And so they'll do the leaves up at the top, and then your presser foot will move down and do the leaves there at the bottom. I have changed my thread out, so if you haven't changed your thread out, make sure you do that now. Okay, so I just changed my color to shadow, and the next step, which is step 17, if you're following along with us in the color chart, we're going to stitch out this swirl to the butterfly. So if you haven't done so already, pause and let's switch out that color.
So now we are going to start our little butterfly. Wait, oh, hold on. Let me get it, Shannon. Let me get it. That cute little butterfly in the light blue and Shannon,
turquoise, light turquoise.
Yes, light turquoise. So she's already changed the thread, so we are ready. And then after that, in your chart, that is number, what was it, 17?
I think it's 18.
18 and 19. So get your thread ready for the center. And Shannon did hers in orange, just same as Designs by Juju.
All right. So we are on our final step of our design stitching, the center of the butterfly. I've switched out my thread to Tango, and we're going to get her started, and I'll be back in just a minute.
Alrighty guys, so Miss Shannon has a little surprise for you.
Yeah, one of the things I love to do is just bring you maybe some extra options for any projects that we'll be sewing along together. So you have an option to do a ribbon for this pot holder, which is in the instructions, which would be fantastic, and you can do that. But I actually wanted to take it up just a little step, and I made a little strip of my own using the main fabric to create my own ribbon. And basically what I did was I took a 5-inch long by 2 inches and I folded it in half and sewed her together. And we're going to use, that's what this is, and we're going to use this as our ribbon for our pot holder. We're going to lower our presser foot and we're going to stitch down our placement stitch. And then what we're going to do is, whether you're using ribbon or if you made your own ribbon, so I don't know if you can zoom up, Gigi, but the placement stitch here is orange. So I wanted a contrast so that you would clearly see that on the navy fabric. You're going to put your ribbon or your homemade ribbon using your main fabric if you want, and you're gonna tape it down securely for that top stitch.
So Shannon, it's really hard to capture this view. Can you tell us the end of that ribbon, is it going to be flush with that stitch that you just did? Is that what we're doing here?
You're actually not going to see it. It's going to stitch over. So when we actually flip this over, this is just going to come out.
Okay, but you're putting the tip of that ribbon right on that end of that placement
Yep.
stitch. Is that what you're doing?
Oh, not on the tip. So we're going to take it out about probably 1/4 of an inch.
That's what I was
Yeah,
looking for. I wanted to make
sorry
sure,
about that.
yeah, I wanted to make sure because we definitely can't zoom in on that because, you know, we're not super fancy here. We don't have 5 cameras.
So I'm going to use 2 pieces of tape to secure this down. So one I'm going to use right here in the center and make sure she's down really good. And then I'm going to use another one at the edge here.
And if you guys notice, and this is step number 16 on your manual, and she does have it looped, and on the manual, you know, on that picture, you can't tell, but do know that she did fold it over.
I did. So if you are using, whether you're using ribbon or a homemade ribbon like I used here, you want to make sure that you decrease your stitch. If you're stitching at 600, I would recommend decreasing this to 400. You want to make sure that the thickness really gets under the presser foot so that we're not taking away the ribbon when it sews over. It's going to sew over back and forth twice. That's what we call a top stitch, really securing that down. So I'm going to lower my speed and I'll be back in just a second.
All right, guys, it wouldn't be right if we left you hanging and we didn't teach you how to give you the bonus round here is the speed.
That's
right.
right.
Shannon and I were like, wait a second, let's teach them how to do it. So go ahead, Shannon.
All right, so if at any point you want to reduce or increase your speed in the middle of a design, here are the steps that you want to do that. So here's our design here. You'll want to go to settings and you'll see icons up here, and what you'll want to click is the icon with the hoop in it. And then here you'll see that you can adjust your tension, you can see how your bobbin thread is, and you'll see there's 6 frames. We're going to forward to the next one, and here is our maximum speed setting. So like I said, I was stitching at 600, but because I'm going to go through some extra fabric, I want to reduce this, and I'm going to reduce it to 400. And when we complete that, I'm going to actually come back here and increase this back up to 600.
All right, guys, so we're going to go now to continue with step number 17. And Shannon, why are you doing that?
Well, this is a stiletto that I use instead of my fingers. You don't want to sew over your fingers, and this is really a very tight place if you can see where the presser foot is and exactly where it needs to stitch. So this just really helps me push that fabric down and get that underneath the presser foot instead of our fingers.
All right.
All right.
Press start and let's get this ball rolling.
All right, it's just as simple as that. So you can see the orange, that's the top stitch, and we have completed. Gigi, what step was that?
Number 17.
Beautiful.
All right, guys, so we just wrapped up 17, step number 17. We're going to remove it off the hoop.
Yep.
And we have to take off our tape off the little ribbon that we created.
That's right.
So that we can get ready for step number 18.
18. So look, I'm turning over my hoop because that is where I'm going to place my Embroidery. So we have our placement stitch, and now you just want to tape that down really good with fabric tape. I usually do all 4 sides. Basically what you're trying to do is make sure that nothing gets caught on the bed of your frame. Don't push down too hard. If we need to, we'll turn the frame over and press that tape down a little bit more securely.
Yeah, and if you notice, Shannon is going to place it back in the hoop, but in the pictures between 18 and 19, it doesn't show it turned back over, but it does tell you to turn it over to put it on the right side up. So don't miss that, okay?
Yep. So I just pressed start, and now we're stitching our tack down. And what that's doing is it's stitching the Embroidery, which is placed again on the bottom. It's stitching that all together.
We're very close.
It's so
We've got
close.
step number 20, and I think just a few more, but I don't count them. The ones on the next page, I'm not going to count those.
No. I like to say this is where we're in the home stretch.
Don't make me laugh because, you know, it's the end of the video and we get a little punchy. Should we tell them
Sure, we can tell them.
that this is round 2 because we forgot? I think we forgot to turn our mics on.
We forgot to turn the mics on.
We don't know what we did.
So I'm taking it out of the hoop, and look at that magic. Our Embroidery has been stitched on the back side of the hoop, and so
now we're on step number 19.
that's right.
Okay, so step number 19, we've removed that hoop, and Shannon is trimming the Embroidery really close to the stitching. So make sure you get very close to that stitching and remove all of that Embroidery. And then after we finish that, we're going to do the final step, which is going to be, I'm not going to say it yet because...
Don't let the cat out of the bag quite yet.
No, not yet.
Take your time when you are cutting around this tack down stitch. Sometimes I like to use a different color. Like you don't want to use white, because if you use white on Embroidery, you won't see it. So make sure you use a color. So I used orange, and it might still be hard for you to see, but you'll want to pick a color that you can see, and again, just take your time and trim all 4 sides. Okay, so we've just finished cutting, and we're on our next step.
We're on step number 20, Shannon. The final step is to add that back.
Yep.
So we're definitely going to position the folded piece, and notice how Shannon is showing you the folded end of that fabric is going to go towards the center as the directions indicate. And we want to make sure that both the top one and the bottom one are going to be going towards the center.
It's real important that you cover your placement stitch about 1/4 of an inch. And as I lift up the hoop, there's some grid marks that are in your hoop, and that is where you really will be able to determine what that center is. And so again, you really just want to parallel that top stitch 1/4 of an inch and make sure you cover that.
And then you were so smart that you actually folded in the edge prior. The directions don't say that, but what Shannon did is she folded it over like about 1/4 inch, maybe just a little bit more, to create a finished edge, guys. At this point, you can run to your straight stitch machine and you could run a straight stitch across the top if you like, or even a decorative stitch if you're fancy wanky.
Or seam.
Or a seam, yep.
Yep.
And now she is going to go get, I think your point turner, but she's showing you how she finished back in there. How perfect it was, so clean.
Yeah, I mean, it just helps not show the rough edges. Not that anybody would even see it,
Right.
but anyway, just a little bit of attention to detail, just to make it a little bit better.
I think this is where I said you can put a cookie in it.
Do you know what your son said?
What did he
This
say?
might be a good place to stash some money.
Oh, wow.
little
That's
secret
a
spot.
Good, but don't tell him that.
All right, so then we're going to take that bottom piece and we're going to right side down, wrong side up, facing up. We want to overlap that bottom piece, and we want to secure this down really good with tape. Why do we want to do that?
Well, because, and other projects that I have done, if you don't secure with tape, you run the risk of when that foot is traveling around the perimeter of the project, it can get caught under that little fold. Honestly, you could run that tape all the way across the top to secure it. Shannon did put it, I think it was like on the 2 sides and maybe right in the middle, but you can take it across because you definitely don't want to run the risk of that foot getting caught in there.
And this probably is a step where you really don't want to walk away from your machine. You'll see I will use my stiletto to guide as the machine is creating that top stitch because of just that. You don't want something to get caught.
Yeah, this is definitely one of those steps where you cannot be multitasking. Because you do run the risk of messing things up, as Shannon is showing you there. And I think I said bring it closer so they can see what I'm talking about, because that little fold, that little lip definitely has the opportunity for that foot to get caught. And you want to make sure you press it down. Always do the pressing down gently because you don't want to take it out of the hoop, and stitch away. That is definitely step number 22.
We're going to stitch this 21 and 22. I've got my stiletto ready to go, and we're going to just make sure that everything's in position. We don't want to use fingers, right? Why do we not want to use fingers?
Oh, because customers call me and say, guess what I did today?
No sewing fingers
and guess where
today.
I'm calling you from? And I'm like, please tell me you're not calling me from the hospital. So people have stitched their fingers. So you definitely want to do just like Shannon does right here. She actually uses a stiletto to make sure that those folded fabrics there that met in the center there, you are holding it flat and down as the foot is coming around.
I think just the takeaway is just this is the step where you really want to just watch your presser foot, where it's going, and making sure that it doesn't get caught on any open seams that aren't already secured down. And
I am going to step out because I do have a sewing celebrity coming to our house
You
to
do.
have dinner.
Go entertain.
Yeah, so I have to go entertain. So I'm going to leave you guys with our fabulous Shannon.
All right, so we have finished with our final step, and I've removed it from the hoop. And our next step is to unscrew our hoop, and then we're gonna take our entire project out of the hoop, and you can take that top frame off. And so that is all the work that was done in just one single hoop. And now what we're gonna do is trim around 1/4 of an inch around our top stitch, which is the orange stitch that's there all the way around. All right, so we're getting ready to cut just our 4 sides using my Creative Grid ruler. Again, 1/4 of an inch, and I'm going to turn it around. And then usually what I'll cut the sides, all 4 sides, and then I'll go back on my corners and just cut them at an angle. Of course, if you have scissors, you can round those. Again, just as a reminder, this is a Designs by Juju project, and we love her and her designs. And now, as Gigi likes to say, we're going to birth her. So usually what I like to do is put my hand and grab a corner, just like I'm doing, and pull it through, and then I just grab all the other corners. Kind of taking your time. We won't have any stitches come out, but I don't like to rush this process. So just take your time. Like I say, it's the magic at the end. I hope that you all have enjoyed this project. Now all I'm doing is just flattening her out. If you have an iron, you could maybe iron down some of the seams if you wanted to do that, especially on the back. What I love about Glide Thread is just the vibrancy of all of these colors. Yes, they're made in the United States. Yes, they're virtually lint-free. It can make or break a project in my book. It can make or break a project. So this is our bloom pot holder from Designs by Juju. We hope that you have enjoyed this class as much as we have. We can't wait to see what you're making in the hoop next time. We'd love to hear any feedback and comments down in the comment section below. And until then, thank you so much. And don't forget to subscribe to Janome Junkies and Junkies. That way you will get notified when we drop a new class soon. Thanks everyone. We'll see you. Can't wait to see what you're hooping it next time.